Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Film and music. Sorry about that. Okay, so my name is Dr. Chan, and I will be presenting the film and music show for the next 40 minutes on USA Global TV and Radio. Because we're on live TV, sometimes there's always some techie stuff. But what's great about it is that being aware and bringing that solution through so that we can bring out the sound and bring the show in its full capacity. Okay, for this week's episode, I'm very excited to announce she is an absolute phenomenal lady. She did dancing herself. She was a ballet dancer. She's coming from a family of musicians and a very successful musician. She has been in the performing arts. She's a novelist. And she wrote a book called Full Circle Rainbow. At the same time, she is the CEO of World Jenny's Day charity, which, of course, we will discuss as we bring her along. So I'm very happy to announce this beautiful woman, compassionate heart. She's lovely, and she's a very dear friend too, a soul sister. The lovely Jenetta Barry.
Hello, Madeleine, and hello to Dr. Jacqueline behind the scenes. It's wonderful to be together again on this very, very precious day for me and for some of us. So thank you for having me back again.
You're very welcome. And we're just so excited to be able to share this special day with you, Jenetta.
Oh, absolutely.
But before we go on to that, I would like you to give a short, brief description on what you do and how you can help.
Okay, thank you, Maddie. My mainstream business is a company called the Epiphany Process, and it is very heavily connected with tonight's theme. It was born out of my greatest life test. Actually, 19 years ago, I lost my daughter to suicide, and I had to walk my walk and talk my talk and get through the great loss. And that's when the Epiphany Process, which you can see there on the screen, was born, because I had to work it to be able to live my life again. And what happened was I noticed that more and more people were saying, how did you get through such a great loss? And can I have a piece of it? That the Epiphany Process grew naturally and metamorphosized, really. And to date, I've been able to help people all around the world for the last 15, 16 years. Online, I've been online from the get-go. When everybody else only heard about online during COVID, I was Skype, I was all sorts of ways of conversing. And I've helped people through terrorist attacks. I've helped people through great trauma outside of terrorist attacks. And young people who have eating disorders, just so many people that have been helped through the epiphany process. And also there's also a learning program so that you can become an epiphany process counselor as well. So that's been a very difficult but incredibly precious and special and heart-opening journey in the end, as I watch people become more and more empowered from this process.
That's phenomenal, Jenetta. Absolutely. I mean, the epiphany process. I know we were going to talk about a different way of how we were going to interview, but for some reason in life, it always goes in natural flow. So talking about the epiphany process, where do you feel the younger generation feel not so connected to society anymore?
Yeah, in fact, you and I were talking about that the other day, Maddie, is that in all the years of counseling young people, and by the way, the youngest I've counseled was 5 years old. And I found the sooner they get out, the better, and learn the tools and techniques. But your average teenager and young adult, generally, I'm obviously generalizing, tends to feel, if they're in an overwhelmed place and feeling depressed and challenged, the story and the conversation they're running inside themselves is that they're absolute losers, that they're boring, that nobody likes them, that they don't even like themselves, they hate themselves. And there's this constant undercurrent conversation going on inside them, looping, saying all that. Such a waste of space, hate myself, wish it was bedtime, I just wish I didn't have to get up, it's so much easier to sleep, you're such a loser. And it just goes on and on and on. And they think that only they feel exclusively like that, that nobody else is in such a deep, dark hole. It's something that's unique to them, which makes them feel different and makes them feel isolated and alone and helpless. And when I went there after my daughter died, I likened it to being in a lifetime emotional prison sentence alone. And that's where most of our young, or not most, but a huge amount of our young generation sits from time to time, if not all the time. And it's quite a thing when they realize that it's entirely movable and get outable from when you've got the skills and techniques to deal with it. And that's what the epiphany process provides, is very accurate, scientific, although they don't feel scientific, but they're really powerful to change one's conversations so that you start seeing a bigger picture, not just the black hole picture.
And I was just going to say, Jenetta, I'm just saying, putting a word across all parents that feel confused by their children's behavior. It would be wonderful. Could they reach out to you, Jenetta?
Oh, absolutely. I was one of those parents. I just didn't know which way to turn when I lost Jenny. That was her 4th suicide attempt. And there were many times where I was pulling my hair out, going, I don't know how to save this child. And families get isolated too, especially when the person suffering starts shutting them down and saying, you can't talk to anybody and you don't tell anybody because it labels me and then nobody will like me even more. And so then their support group gets compromised as well. And it's dreadful as a parent or a family member to have to go around pretending everything's all right when it isn't.
I think it's also phenomenal, the fact that you actually have gone through this. You've lost your daughter at that time. Well, I mean, you've lost your daughter to suicide, and you wrote a book, which is on Amazon at the moment, called Full Circle Rainbow. Can you tell our viewers a quick synopsis of
Yeah.
what Full Circle is about?
Yeah, that's Full Circle Rainbow there. And I've got a couple of chapters to just show and talk about the meaningful chapters. After Jenny died, that void of losing, especially somebody so young, she was only 16. And by the way, today is the anniversary of her death. She died on World Mental Health Day. That's why it's called World Jenny's Day, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But that loss, that void, that young, vibrant energy gone, I sat there going, science says energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is omnipresent, omniscient. It is always around. But what happens is it works in cycles, and when a cycle of energy completes itself, it reforms into a new form of energy, a new cycle. So with that being the case, where's my daughter? Where's her energy gone? So I, as part of my healing process, I started setting an intent that I would be open in new ways and more advanced ways than I had, because I had been practicing on a spiritual level before she left the planet, but on new and more advanced ways to sense when I was getting some sort of connection with Jenny and her new forms of energy. And I started writing them down. It took 4 years before I could make this 70-page book, because I couldn't make it up. And sometimes nothing happened for weeks, months. I think at one stage I had 18 months where nothing happened. But they did, and they happened in all different ways and in very subtle ways. And I really got the sense that Jenny wanted to make it subtle and simple so that this book could help those people who were searching for meaning after loss. And 4 years after she died, I started writing it. Almost felt like the words were coming through me, because I battled to write without being a huge critic of my writing. And yet every time I sat down to write this book, it just went shoo, and the pages filled with my typing. And it was published in 2009, so a long time ago. Long time ago.
That's amazing. But I was going to say, Jenetta, from the Full Circle Rainbow, and you were saying you were connected with Jenny, her energy. In what way were you connected? Did she speak to you in music or
In
in
many
numbers?
ways. In fact, I've included in our presentation a little bit on that. So if we can bring up yes, there it is. There's the initial page, but here's bits and pieces. This was Jenny's piece from her writings that I found after she died, hugely insightful, that got me to see so much more about her and understand. She died on her 16th birthday. So yeah, there were many, but one of the things was, here's an example, was the 9+7. I had a really lucid dream with a lot of meditation music in the background, with a picture of Jenny at that age that you can see her there. But she was wearing her tartan dress, one of her special tartan dresses, while she was growing up in Kenya. And when I came to, there was no music, because I thought it was my sound system playing meditation music. And it got me going, well, this is a sign. I heard music, I saw Jenny in my dream, and I instantly woke up in the early hours of the morning with that. I knew that I had to start listening and searching in different ways. And I knew nothing about numerology at that point. But as I was lying, processing it all, I went, well, what's today? And so on. And I found out that day, it was 9 months since it was 7 days short of 9 months since she died. The nines and sevens, and it was just coming in fast and furiously. And then I knew that numerology worked with birth dates and date deaths. So I got Jenny's birthday, which is 25th of September 1989. And in numerology, you take all the numbers and bring them down to a single digit. So 25 is 7, the number 9 of the month, September, and 1989, when you take 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9 and add it down, you keep on adding onto itself, it comes to 9. So we had 7, 9, 9, and 7 and 9 and 9 adds up to 16, which was the age she was when she died. And 1 plus 6 is 7. So there was a 7, and she was 16 and 7. And then I went and got her death date, and it was 10/10/2005. And of course, 10 and 10 adds up to 2, and 2005 adds up to 7. And 7 plus 2 is 9. So her birth date and year added up to 7, and her death date to 9, and she died at 16. And it just went on and on. In fact, I tried to do that adding up with all my family's birth dates, and nobody had that synchronicity, only Jenny. So that was a very significant part of one of the messages. Another one was a year to the minute of her dying. A year later, I was in Spain with my best friend from we've been best friends since we were 9 years old, and she was Jenny's godmother. And I was up at the top of the mountain over Malaga. That's the view. That's the picture I took. And it came up to the exact time that she died. And I said, okay, send me a sign. And I'd been at a clairvoyant a little while before who'd said she's going to send you yellow butterflies very significantly. And as the clock went like this yellow butterfly came in front of me and was doing this all in front of me, and then finally disappeared. So it was things like that. But there were so many different ones. I mean, there are many chapters where I'd stop. The rainbows Jenny sent to me in unusual ways, which is why it's called Full Circle Rainbow, not normal rainbows. Jenny's rainbows always very, very unusual, like a whole cloud filled with rainbow. That happens several times. It's a very special phenomenon, and it doesn't happen very often. Is an example. The very first time she sent it to me was when I asked her to send me a rainbow, and I came out of meditation and the whole room was filled with rainbow light. And I couldn't work out how that had happened, but it was actually a CD disc overturned that the sun was on, and all these sort of things that are in that book that are quite inspiring from what I gather. People say once they start reading it, they can't put the book down. And it's a light read because, well, maybe the first chapter is a little bit difficult, well, a lot difficult, because it describes what I went through to release Jenny into the sea with her ashes. But after that, it is light reading, and I believe it's inspired many people who've gone through loss.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what you've experienced, and how you've turned your pain into power, to empower yourself and empower others, to help them to have the tools to be able to manage, and through the epiphany process. But I wanted to ask you a kind of personal question, if that's okay. Do you feel at the point of when Jenny contacted you from the other side of the veil, did you already accept and surrender the fate of your daughter's timing, of Jenny going, and accepting within yourself? Or was it a need of, I have to know, is she's okay?
That is such a brilliant question, Maddie. It's really a brilliant, brilliant question. And of course, each person's experience is different. So I can't answer for everybody who's lost a daughter or a person very, very close to them. I can only answer for myself. And I can say to you, and I talk about this in grief, my whole grief went in stages. So I had times where I didn't want to even talk about Jenny or deal with Jenny. I went through times of anger where I was so angry with her because she did it on me after she and I had an argument. So I had patches where the last thing I wanted to do was contact her, but they were very short patches because mostly I wanted to be able to know, yes, is she all right? And what is she resonating at, and what's happening? So most of the time I was in that quest, but I was having to deal with my loss and grief. And I didn't just lose Jenny in that time. I lost a marriage. I lost another child, my youngest daughter, who decided to go and live with her dad. I call that a living death. I went to ground zero. So I was dealing with loss and grief on so many levels. But this I was determined, because I knew that there was more than what's in front of your eyes as the reality. There's so many different realities, and I was determined to be able to step back and look at a bigger picture of what had happened. And I'll just touch on this, but the day she died, she should not have succeeded. And once I realized that the odds of her succeeding in leaving this planet were really ridiculous, then that was one of the pieces of the puzzle where I went, wow. So often people will have a near miss or a near death experience and come back, or a near miss. And they say it wasn't my time. And it just felt, my word, it was Jenny's time. It was Jenny's time.
It certainly sounds like it. And it's amazing how you can help so many people with broken hearts, trying to understand the void that's been left. So I do ask anyone to please contact Jenetta if you feel that void, if you're experiencing the same thing, or if you're just experiencing trauma. Please do contact Jenetta, because wait, Jenetta, before we go on to talk about Insight and World Jenny's Day, can you just let our viewers know where they can contact you? I think it's really important right now.
Yes. Well, there's two websites. The one is the Epiphany Process, if you're needing help and want to reach out. So it's up on the screen there, but for our listeners, it's the Epiphany, EPIPHANY, process, PROCESS.com, the epiphanyprocess.com. World Jenny's Day you can do as well. And of course, that's world, and then JENNYS day.com. Or you can get hold of me directly on WhatsApp, and that's +44 777, there's the 7, 423 0464.
Fantastic. And thank you for that. So, Jenetta, let's move on. I would love you to share with the audience World Jenny's Day. And I have,
That's
there
it.
she is. World Jenny's Day. Beautiful, antique, gorgeous brooches that are just absolutely beautiful. So let's look at the website. So, Jenetta, can you explain to our viewers World Jenny's Day about the website?
Yeah, World Jenny's Day was truly a theoretical butterfly metamorphosizing, because round about the 9th, 10th anniversary, my youngest daughter was turning 21. And I decided that I would have the yellow butterfly while over the course of her 21st tattooed on my ankle. And she and my son Neil, Catherine and Neil and I went to a tattoo parlor near to where she was having her 21st birthday. I'd flown into the country to be with her. She was in a different country. And he refused to do a yellow butterfly because he said that it fades. I won't see it within a year or so, and it needed to have quite a lot of black in it. So I went back and I found a monarch butterfly and said, okay, this is nothing like my yellow butterfly, but I will honor it, because these are the sort of signs when you fight a sign and go, no, 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 I only get sent yellow butterflies and that's it. So he put a yellow butterfly on my ankle, monarch, with all the black and the yellow, and it was beautiful in 3D. You could see a shadow behind it, so beautifully done. And off I went, going, okay, it's not quite my yellow butterfly, but let's see. And then years later, when we realized that actually she died on World Mental Health Day, and that to start a Jenny's Day to shift conversations and normalize conversations around depression and suicide through her loss, then we started discussing the different logos. And then I suddenly had this vision of the monarch butterfly with rainbow colors, which fitted in with all the incredible rainbows Jenny's ever sent us. And so that's where the rainbow brooches, it's just been an amazing journey using that rainbow butterfly for World Jenny's Day.
And Jenetta, World Jenny's Day, the charity. Can you explain what it's about? World Mental Health, because it's on World Mental Health Day.
Yeah.
And because Jenny left this world today, back at that time. Yeah. So why did you set up the charity?
Well, I've just felt that mental health charities up to now have been very much about treating people with mental health challenges as though they're very different and that they need to be fixed, medicated, or all sorts of things. And because of the stigma that doing that attaches to people, so many people battle. And for me, it's about coming from a different approach, which is when we are in our creative zone, we are closest to our creator, because he, after all, or he, she, they created us. We were part of the creativity and the creation, and we are creatures of that creativity. And when we are in our creative zone, we are most enlightened and most in touch and in tune with the universe and the creator. And that is when new conversations can start. Not that the epiphany process uses creativity per se, but it does bring one into a heart-opening, heart-centered place that shifts on a conscious and an unconscious level. And so does anything to do with creativity. When we're in our creative zone, we shift, we lighten up. And that is why in rehabs, the people in rehabs do a lot of creative things for that reason. And in my opinion, creativity has been put down at the bottom of the pile of what needs to be used in schools or taught in schools. It's always academics, then sport, and then, it's really nice to go to little Johnny's school play or watch Susie dance, or Arabella has a fantastic way to paint or sing or dance or whatever it is. It's always kind of like cute, but it's the other way around. It's being able to bring the creative in, bring out their unique creative abilities, so they become creatures that are even closer to creation and the creator. And that is when it's easier to open your heart. In fact, it's not difficult at all. It happens spontaneously to open your heart and see that bigger picture as well. And that's the approach that World Jenny's Day comes in on.
Wouldn't that be just a wonderful world if every day was a World Jenny's Day, in the way that the creator, creatures of creation rather than creatures of habit, as what we've all been told throughout
Exactly.
the years
And
everything.
creatures of what's expected of us rather than what is truly our essence. And I'm watching it. It is changing in schools, and the way they teach children it's becoming far more holistic and heart opening and creative. Because really, when you're in your creative zone, then you can embrace the art of math, the art of science, the art of sports, because it's all an art. It truly is. It's the wrong way around as we see it these days.
When I was at school, Jenetta, I wish that they sang to me in arithmetic, in maths,
That would be
because I probably would pick
amazing.
it up. I was terrible at it, anything
Exactly.
intellectual. But
Yeah.
what's really strange, and I don't know whether you agree with me or not, even though they don't encourage creativity in schools, where is the most money that's derived? The big money in this world has come from film and music
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
theatre.
Exactly. People realize that they need that ability to shift into more than what's in front of their eyes at work and at home, and be able to transform themselves for periods of time, and how vital that is. People
Yeah.
know it. They know it in the deep down side of themselves, but their logic tells them they have to be mostly academic and sport minded. Not that there isn't any value in that, because it's incredibly valuable. Both of them are incredibly valuable.
That's a great
And I
answer.
mean, that is why we did Insight, which I know you were wanting to get into next,
Yes.
and how Insight was birthed. Um, I always wondered, after having written Full Circle Rainbow, whether one day there would be a film, or what I would do about it. And I just left it be, because I found that these things show themselves with time. And I hadn't danced for a number of years. And whilst living in New York, I recommenced my dancing, and then got back home to Kenya, and was invited to dance in a show in the theatre that I had grown up in. We practically lived in that theatre. And at the end of the show that I was in, the backstage crew were busy striking the set, which means they were pulling down the set and playing music. And my friend Kez and I were crossing the stage. And as we got halfway through, one of Jenny's most prominent songs, she was playing to death, literally, started playing. And I stopped, and I said to Kez, this was Jenny's song. And she listened to it, and she said it would choreograph beautifully. And we got up to the bar where the rest of the cast and the choreographer for this show we'd been in was, and told them what had just happened. And he said, the choreographer said, we've got to put on a 2-act show. We have to, on depression, suicide, and solutions. And that's exactly what we did. And that song birthed it. So you were asking about where did the messages come. This was after the book had been published, so it's not in the book. But here's some ideas of what happened in Insight. We put it on a year later, and here's the first picture I've brought up when it finally comes to us. So no, it's on my pitch deck. Thanks, Dr. Jacqueline. Yes, there we go. Actually, that's Kez there on the right, who was crossing the stage with me when that happened. This song is Vincent. And you know how it goes, Starry, Starry
Yes.
Night.
Don
That one.
McLean. Don
Don
McLean.
McLean, that's it.
McLean.
And Yeah. And it was beautifully choreographed because we were all part of the artist's picture. So the main dancer came in and was painting, pretending to paint us as we moved. And there you can see Vincent van Gogh and stuff on the back, because it was about Vincent. And actually, I brought it in because not long after Jenny died, my mum and I were listening to it one day, and my mum said, "My God, this could be Jenny talking to us. This is Jenny talking to us through a song that we'd known since I was a teenager." So we included it in there, and all the artists in the audience afterward would come up and say our most favorite piece was Starry, Starry Night. It was so beautifully done. So that was the one. And then another one was, I had what I called my crossing over moment, where I really didn't want to stay on the planet. And I actually did plan my suicide after Jenny died several times. And I was walking along mindlessly along the road, and I realized I had to cross, and I crossed without caring whether I got hit or not. And I got halfway across and got an insight going, "You've forgotten you have choice. You think you're stuck as the label of the mother whose daughter committed suicide." And I carried on wandering through the rest of the traffic on the other side. And as I stepped off the road on the other side, I realized I'd had what I called my crossing over moment. I hadn't crossed over by being hit by a car, but I'd crossed over on a mental, emotional, spiritual, physical level, knowing that I couldn't take another minute living in this fuzz and fog and wishing to leave, and that I had to find accurate ways. And that is when I started searching and working and bringing out the epiphany process. So this scene was done with the traffic in the backdrop. You can see the traffic there, and people walking on both sides of the girl crossing the road, with my voiceover and my writings. And it had a profound effect on everybody. What I included, because this was the finale of Act One, what I included at the end of that was where she went, "Okay, I'm going to be able to get through this." You could see it in her body language and the way she was dancing. And then suddenly she didn't have the tools to get through it. And suddenly the whole stage closed in on her, with people coming in and shouting and screaming, which is how a person who's feeling challenged feels like. Everybody's on their case. And as it's kind of comes to a crescendo, we had a blackout, and it was end of Act One. So that was a very profound number as well. Beginning of Act Two, this was called Black and White Thinking. And so the white side is extreme positivity, and the black side, extreme negativity, with the figures dancing. And in the center, a couple dancing the tango, because whenever I've danced the Argentinian tango, it uses a lot of terminology about balance and yin and yang. So you can see the male dancer is black and the female dancer is in white. And they were dancing on the center line. We even had the steps done in black and white, everything. And all the time, every time the figures tried to come into balance, they'd be pulled away because they didn't have the skills and tools to bring that balance in, like the tango dancers. So that was very profound opening of Act Two. And there's and you see them all coming in on the tango dancers at the end.
Yes.
So that was the finale of that song. This one, yeah.
Yes, and no, I was just going to say we're coming to the end of our program, and I wish we could have part two. We've got to have part two, because
I've got two more photos.
Yes,
I've just got two more, and I'll quickly add them.
Yes.
Okay, so this one is about birth and how everybody is scared of birth. And you can see we've got death and life there in the background there. You can see it there. and birthing, and so that one stops being quite so scared about birth. This is me directing at the front there with all the very positive dancers in white there. And then the negative and the positive, see the negative pulling the positive along, dragging it along. And then when you get the skills, you go from black and white thinking into your true colors. And we used Cyndi Lauper's True Colors to do that. And then the finale was, we used Baba Yetu, which is a very famous song, and it's basically the Lord's Prayer in Swahili, as everybody was having an epiphany moment. They were going like that. So that was Insight, but there were many more dancers and insights as well.
That's phenomenal. And what's going to be happening with Insight? Are you going to take it global?
Yeah, I mean, it was intended to go global, and then COVID happened. It did get invited because we had the world premiere in Nairobi at my theatre, my big Kenya National Theatre. And then it was invited to be performed in Europe, which it was, and then COVID hit. We had hoped we'd franchised it by now. And of course, getting funding is never, never easy.
It certainly isn't. But I have a wonderful feeling, I have a good feeling that Insight is going to be shown in all theatres everywhere. I wish we had more time, Jenetta. I really do. Please do come back for part 2. You have to.
Love to.
Because there's no way we could have covered everything in just the 40 minutes, well, 35 minutes. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Jenetta. Thank you for being an absolutely amazing, wonderful, and with great insight. And please, everyone, please do reach out to Jenetta. She'll be there for you for consultation. And I would say, if you feel that void, you feel nothing's working, then please do contact Jenetta, because she certainly has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of heart, and a lot of understanding, because she's gone through it. Please do contact her.
Thank you. Thank you, Madeleine. And yeah, just reach out to me. The important thing is to see whether what I do relates to you. It doesn't relate to everybody. That's why there are so many choices out there.
Well, thank you very much, Jenetta, and we'll see you next time.
Love you all.
Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap up now. Thank you so much for being wonderful viewers and listeners. USA Global TV and Radio on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course. Please do continue to support Film and Music Show, and most of all, support the mothership USA Global TV and Radio. My name's Dr. Madalene Chan, and I will see you next week. Oh, and remember, thank you to our sponsor, Audi K Barrier. And thank you to you all for supporting. So I'll see you next week. Goodbye.